welcome to our weekly media briefing and public health update with Montgomery County Executive Mark Elridge. I'm Lorna Virgili, Hispanic Public Information Officer, and joining us today is the Fire Chief, Corey Smedley, as well as Mr. Sean O'Donnell, Deputy Chief of Public Health Services, Dr. Earl Stoddard, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer, and other guests joining us today is Kate Chan, Faith Community Outreach Manager for the Office of Community Partnerships, Willie Parker Lone, Assistant Chief, Montgomery County Department of Police, and Lisa Mantle, Program Manager for the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Thank you everyone for joining us. Good afternoon, Mr. County Executive.
Good afternoon. Again, thank you all for being here today. I want to start by acknowledging the great job that was done last night by our fire and rescue services when a large fire destroyed the Joanne Lullick Elementary School in Silver Spring, which was closed and set for demolition. So fortunately, no loss on this one. Fire was reported around 9 p.m. last night, and people who smelled smoke and called for help initially sent firefighters to the wrong school. Firefighters eventually discovered the vacant school was on fire. Nearly 100 firefighters were needed to knock down the 2-alarm fire. Because of the timing of the fire, no injuries were reported, and because the school was closed, this will not displace any classroom or students. There are still pockets of fire in the structure which are difficult to safely treat because of access problems within the instability of the structure right now. Once these issues are addressed and the fires are extinguished, an investigation is going to take place to determine the cause and origin of the fire. Another fire and rescue news, FEMA has called on the Maryland Task Force 1 to deploy so they can help with water rescues in and around Florida this week in response to Hurricane Helene. Helene's expected to get even stronger over the next few days. I saw numbers this morning predicting up to 150-mile-an-hour winds as it makes landfall. The storm could cause tornadoes in Florida and Alabama before threatening Georgia and South Carolina. Our crew of 45 people loaded up this morning will head to the Gulf States region to await further instructions. Emergency response leaders have warned the storm surge associated with Helene could be life-threatening up to 8 feet in Tampa. The urban search and rescue team is headquartered in Montgomery County, but also includes members from neighboring counties, Washington, D.C. as well. It's highly trained and experienced in helping during an emergency, but this can still be a dangerous mission. I wish those professionals the best as they bravely accept this role in helping those impacted by Helene. I'm glad to be joined today by Chief Smedley on this busy day for MCFRS to provide additional updates, and then we can take any questions you have for the Chief before we let him go. So Chief, it's all yours.
Thank you, County Executive Elridge. Thank you for having me, everyone. The County Executive did an excellent job of giving that briefing. Just a couple things with the school system. We have no report of injuries to our community or to our first responders. So I wanted to talk about that even more. Also, as the County Executive said, we are ensuring that we're doing everything we can to make sure the fire is totally out. So you may start to see us scale back even more, but we're going to be there until we're confident that the fire is out. And then we transition to the investigative phase. We have been lockstep with Montgomery County school system. I've been on the phone several hours as early as 2 o'clock this morning with their chief of security to talk about what are the needs that are unmet so we can ensure that we close those gaps. And the biggest thing is when we turn over the property, that we turn over that is secure and safe, and that no one, kids can get on that property to get injured. So we're working very diligently to do that. As it relates to moving on to the task force, we do have 45 people that will be departing. They're actually going to be staging in Atlanta. They'll depart with 45 people: Montgomery County Fire Rescue, Montgomery County Police, DC, Howard County, Prince George's County, as well as Frederick County are all part of that team. And then once they stage in Atlanta, they'll take further direction if needed from that point. Normally, we're about a 10 to 2 week time frame, and if we need to extend that, there's additional work that needs to be done to ensure we're ready to go beyond that initial time frame. What I also want to talk about is that, don't worry, we have the resources back at home to take care of our community, and we're ensuring that there are no gaps in our service delivery to our Montgomery County community as well. The other thing, I was in DC just a few minutes ago, where we're at our 20th anniversary partnering with Pepco and Lowe's for smoke alarm initiatives. And the great news about that is they donate the smoke alarms to Montgomery County, District of Columbia, and Prince George's County. And approximately every 3 hours, there's a fire fatality in the United States. And out of those fire fatalities, 80% of the time, they do not have a smoke alarm that is working in the structure. So smoke alarm saves lives, and I can't stress that enough. So if nothing else that you heard from me today, please go out, make sure you have a smoke alarm, make sure you check your smoke alarm, make sure you either call us on Montgomery County 311 or go to our website, the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue website, and we can come out to help you look at your smoke alarm and other safety initiatives. And with that, I'll stop for any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. Members of the media, we're going to open it up now for questions for the fire chief regarding last night's fire and or the task force deployment. Any questions, please raise your hands. Okay, Jeannie Bixby, Local 360. Good afternoon, Jeannie.
Good afternoon, Lorna. Hi, Chief Smedley. I was wondering, I know that I've been following our good old PIL, Mr. Pete Pieringer's tweets have been very informative. He had put something out talking about how the department is working in tandem with demolition crews as the day goes on. Could you talk a little bit about that? Is that something that's going to be ongoing before the building is turned back over to MCPS?
That's correct. So it's multiple partners. It's the Montgomery County Fire and Rescue. Our police partners are out helping secure the scene as well, along with Montgomery County Public Schools and our Department of General Services. So it's many partners in the government working together to ensure that when we leave the site, that the building and the property is safe. So part of that is it was already scheduled for demolition. It just happened quicker based on this fire, and I don't have the cause of the fire just yet. We're still in the late of the operation stages, so you will see activity on there for quite a bit until we're able to demolish the structure to a safe state, and then we can secure the facility around it, whether it's fencing or otherwise, so people can't get in and hurt themselves.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions, Jeannie? Any follow-up questions?
No, thank you so much.
Thank you. Any more questions, members of the media for, Judy Hertz, the Greater Olney News. Good afternoon, Judy.
Good afternoon. I'm just wondering if there's any regular protocol for vacant buildings like this. Is there any sort of, I don't know, fencing or extra protection or whatever around them to prevent fires, especially of a suspicious nature?
There are different procedures that we go through. The Department of Permitting is the responsible agency that helps manage those things. Unfortunately, sometimes those things, even though we do within the compliance of our ordinances, sometimes people are able to get through there. Sometimes it's trying to get refuge. And unfortunately, that happens sometimes. But there are things that we do to ensure that a structure is safe, whether we board it up or whether we secure it by other means, fencing, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Members of the media, any other questions for the fire chief at this time? No more questions for the chief? Chief, we know you're busy. You might have to depart this meeting. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Mr. County Executive.
Thank you,
Chief, for joining today. And again, so glad to see no one was injured last night. And I wish those who deployed to Florida safety in their journey down there. I'm glad we were able to respond. As the community knows, there are concerns about the October 7th anniversary that's coming up. Since last October 7th, I've had many conversations with members of the Jewish Muslim, and other communities. And while our diverse communities fear for their safety and friends abroad, they also fear for themselves and their loved ones here at home in Montgomery County. They're scared of violence in their neighborhoods, synagogues, and mosques. They're afraid of harassment and the general tenor of things, which can be less settling than it was before. This is a sad reality. Even though our county is one of the most diverse and welcoming places in the country, we've seen a rash of anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, and other hateful acts in our schools and across our communities. And as the anniversary of the tragic day approaches, we must stand unified with each other against hate. Multiple county departments are engaged with our community, including the Office of Community Partnerships, Office of Human Rights, Department of Health and Human Services, and the Regional Service Center, as well as the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security and the Police Department. One of the most direct ways we're supporting nonprofits and faith communities is our nonprofit security grant program. Today, we reopened this program to applications for the third year in a row. We're the only jurisdiction that we're aware of that provides local funds to our nonprofits that are at risk of hate incidents. Last year, we awarded $900,000 to help protect nonprofit organizations. Since 2022, the Montgomery County Police Department has tracked and made available to the public monthly summaries of the hate bias incidents that have been reported to them and investigated. In August, there were more than 24 reports with people targeted because of their sexual orientation, religion, or race. There's another program that MCPD launched over the summer that is important to highlight. It's called MoCo Connect. With residents and organizations, they can register their security cameras with our police department. Video sharing is completely voluntary. The goal is to help the police violent crime information center as they investigate incidents, and the video can also be used when people are missing. So, Montgomery County government is committed to countering hate and extremism. Nonprofit security grants application announced today are an affirmation of our unwavering support for the entirety of this diverse community and for the organizations who serve them. Joining me now to talk about our security grants, our MoCo Connect program, and more are several guests. First, we're going to hear from Lisa Mantle from our Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. Then we're going to hear from Kate Chance, who's the county's Faith Community Outreach Manager. And finally, Assistant Chief Willie Parker Loam from the Montgomery County Police Department. So I will turn this over to you all.
Thank you, Council County Executive Elrich. So yes, as you mentioned, we are accepting applications for the nonprofit security grant. This year, we have $1.2 million available in grants. Organizations can submit up to 5 applications if they have multiple facilities within the county. And grant awards will vary, but range up to $15,000 per facility. And the period of performance for these grants is 1 year from the execution of a grant agreement. The application is open now, accepting applications, and the deadline is Friday, October 18th. The target populations for this grant program are nonprofit organizations that are at risk of hate crimes based on their work or the community that they serve, or faith-based facilities, religious organizations that meet the requirements of 501c3 tax-exempt organization that are also at risk of hate crimes, again, based on their work or the community that they serve, or whether they've experienced actual hate crimes in the past. These funds can be used for security personnel to pay for a security assessment or a plan, to conduct security training, to develop and execute a security drill, to purchase new security cameras for their facility, or as you mentioned, to purchase what's called a Fusus core device, which enables sharing the security camera feed with the Montgomery County Police Department. That's all I have. Does Kate Chance or Chief Parker Loan, do you have anything to add?
Let's hear from Kate.
Hi, so my name is Kate Chance. I'm the faith liaison here with Montgomery County, and I work in the Office of Community Partnerships. And we have over 600 houses of worship here in Montgomery County. A recent study by the Public Religion Research Institute says that we're the most religiously diverse county in the entire country. But we also have some of the highest concentrations of minority religious traditions here in Montgomery County. Our highest concentration is of Black Protestant Christians, but we have the second highest concentration of Orthodox Christians, the third highest concentration of those that practice Hinduism, fourth highest concentration of those that practice Judaism, fourth highest concentration of those that practice Islam, and the fifth highest concentration of those that practice Buddhism. And while we're so proud of our diversity, we also have to be very sensitive to how various communities can be targeted and experience hate. This grant is for all nonprofit organizations, not just those that practice a religious tradition, but this is an incredible opportunity for our houses of worship that do experience hate crimes that target their various religious traditions or beliefs within their house of worship. So this grant is a really incredible opportunity for our houses of worship to feel safe and a bit more secure. There are also federal and state resources that Lisa and I both push out and promote. I often do that through a newsletter that I have, and so we'll promote this grant through that newsletter as well. You can subscribe to it and visit our website, faithmcmd.org, so you can subscribe there. We also host quarterly security trainings. The date for our next security training is pending, but it will be this fall in East County, and we'll also promote that through the newsletter as well. In the Office of Community Partnerships, we work to make sure that we're bridging, we're getting resources to our various community groups broadly. So we will be advertising this security grant to all of our community groups, not just houses of worship and faith communities. But I did want to share an example of a house of worship that was recently targeted. Congregation Bethel had a lot of hateful graffiti targeting them. I believe 2 incidents within a week. And so the rabbi there actually put out a letter calling on all houses of worship to stand together in solidarity against hate, regardless of political beliefs or religious ideology. And we had I believe over 150 houses of worship sign on, which is wonderful since we have around 600 houses of worship here in Montgomery County. So I just wanted to share that, and I'm happy to provide that letter with anybody who's interested as well. And that is it from me.
Thank you, Ms. Chance. Assistant Chief, your turn now.
Good afternoon, Willie Parker Lone, Assistant Chief of Police with Montgomery County. So the department, as well as all of our law enforcement partners here in Montgomery County, are well aware of the significance of October 7th. And we will be providing high visibility patrol as a deterrent to violent acts. The community should not be alarmed when they see police officers and/or police vehicles around religious sites or schools. So just want to make sure people are aware of that. And as October 7th approaches, my district command staff and their community services officers have and will continue to reach out to the communities and places of worship to provide guidance and safety tips. The department is working with our Intel Commanders Partners Network, which is a national network of intelligence sharing. And this network, which includes local, state, and federal partners, share information that is crucial to law enforcement agencies with regards to maintaining safety for our communities. So I encourage anyone who sees or learns about something that they feel is suspicious to contact us immediately by either calling 911 or 301-279-8000. And also within the next week, our Public Information Office will be messaging the community about potentially seeing an increased police presence, not to be alarmed if they do so, see us out there, and to call if they see anything suspicious. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Assistant Chief Parker Lone. Members of the media, we are going to open it up right now for questions for either Ms. Chance, Ms. Mento, or Assistant Chief Parker Lone. If you have any questions, please raise your hands right now. Any questions regarding this particular topic? No questions? Thank you very much to the three of you for joining us this afternoon. You can remain on the call or you can depart if you have to. Mr. County Executive, we can go ahead and continue.
Thank you all for getting on the call. I think it's helpful for people to understand what it is we're trying to do and that we are pretty thoroughly engaged on this. Over the last couple of days, we were showing off Montgomery County's progress on affordable housing and development. And I want to thank Maryland Secretary of Housing and Community Development, Jake Day, for his visit to Montgomery County this week. We took the secretary and his team to Long Branch, Tacoma Park, North Bethesda, Rockville, Gaithersburg, pretty much all over the county, to see examples of affordable housing development and neighborhood revitalization that have resulted from county and state funding collaborations. Just last week, we broke ground on an exciting new housing project with HOC in the East County. The Hillendale Gateway Project will create more than 450 residences in 2 new buildings. It's the largest residential investment in the East County in decades, and just down the street from a White Oak complex that is set up to see major redevelopment soon. The entire Hillendale complex will be all electric, mixed use, and mixed income. It's the kind of project that never comes about on its own. We worked with HOC, the Green Bank, and private investors to get creative with the planning of the project and the financing. Total cost of the project was $303 million in the form of private and public debt, as well as other sources, including over $52 million in the Maryland Low-Income Housing Tax Credit Equity, $16 million from the Montgomery County's Housing Initiative Fund, $10 million from Montgomery County Green Bank, and $35 million in construction financing from the Housing Production Fund. State grants will also cover $2.5 million of the cost. Because of the state and county funding, 54% of the units will be affordable to families earning between 30 and 80% of area median income. That's, for people who don't know the percent of what those percentages mean, it's something north of $35,000 a year to over $80,000 a year. So that's the range that we're able to serve, and that's not something we're normally able to do. Most of the MPDU program only serves people at about $65,000 in income and doesn't go into the lower income levels. So this makes this project exceptional, I think, especially interesting. Project's one of many we've launched with the help of the state DHCD, the Housing Opportunities Commission, and nonprofit developers such as Montgomery Housing Partnership, Affordable Homes and Communities, Habitat for Humanity, and others. Over the last 5 years, this sustained effort has helped thousands of families struggling with housing costs. Montgomery County has helped produce and preserve more than 1,700 affordable units just over the last 2 years. And we're producing more than 600 affordable, new additional affordable housing units. It was good to be able to show Secretary Day and his team how we devoted record amounts of money to affordable housing since I became executive. These are exciting projects, and there are a lot more in the works that will help us add jobs and growth to the economy. And all of this shows the continued need for expansion of our bus rapid transit system to give our workforce and residents easier ways to access to all parts of the county. It was very exciting. I think one of the main points we try to make with the state is that we're ready to spend their money. We're not a jurisdiction that is planning and trying to think about what we're going to do, but to the extent we get money for projects, we put that money to use immediately. And so we think we're not only a good investment for the state, but we're a good model for other jurisdictions in the state that are looking to build affordable housing, but have still not figured out all the different things you can do to put together good packages. Our team has been able to put together some really good packages to make this housing possible. Mail-in voting registration and county drop boxes are about to be real. I want to remind everyone that the mail-in ballots for this November's election are hitting mailboxes now. Mail-in ballots have prepaid postage, so you can just mail them back or put them in one of the more than 50 secure drop boxes that are set up around the county. You do not need to give a reason to request or receive a mail-in ballot. Ballots are not automatically mailed to voters like they were in 2020. However, there's still time to request the mail-in ballot through the Maryland State Board of Elections at elections.maryland.gov. A Maryland driver's license or ID number is required, and the deadline is October 15th. Texting the word vote or VOTA, VOTA, to 77788 is another way to learn about voter registration. And by registering to vote now, voters can avoid having to do same-day registration during the early voting or while casting a ballot on election day. And this week we continued our tour around the county doing budget briefings for the community. This past Monday, I hosted our first budget conversation with the African Caribbean residents. Montgomery Governor Westmore proclaimed September African Heritage Month for the first time this year. Montgomery County's recognized it for the last 16 years. I want to thank everyone who had great questions and participated in the forums to help improve our community. This was the 4th of 11 community conversations that will continue into November. And I've heard questions about affordable housing, public safety, county services. We often have our county leadership on hand at these meetings who can provide answers or follow up directly with residents. One of the important things about these meetings is our departments have not been told to start their next budget yet. We do these meetings now to provide feedback to the departments and what we're hearing around the county so we can take issues that are raised by the residents into consideration as we put the budget together. I remind people, because I think reality can be sobering, is we're not going to be able to do everything everybody wants us to do. The county simply doesn't have enough resources to do everything. Though I'll say I wish I did, because there's not much I've been asked for that I don't think is absolutely reasonable or important to do. But we are constrained by the reality of budgets. And so we let people know that we'll take things into consideration. We'll do as much as we can. But we also ask people to understand that there are limits on the revenues counties have. I'd say by and large, response from people has been pretty good. I think anybody who's managed their own budget knows there are a lot of times you don't get to do everything you want to do. But it's good to know what resources you have and what you can do. And that's what we're trying to convey to the residents. The next regional community conversation is going to be held in the Up County on Monday, September 30th from 7:30 to 9. It will be held at Black Rock Center for the Arts in Germantown. All our community conversations are live streamed and recorded for you on our YouTube page and televised live on Montgomery County Cable. Other good news in the county, we got AAA ratings again from all the bond agencies. Montgomery County is back in rare company. Out of over 3,000 counties in the nation, we have one of only about 50 of the AAA bond ratings that are put out. Last week, we retained our AAA from all 3 rating agencies. We've scored AAA for 52 years with Moody's, 49 years from S&P Global Ratings, and 34 years from Fitch Ratings. We're not aware of any other jurisdiction that has this sort of positive financial record and history of strong management. Receiving a AAA rating is like having a perfect score on your credit report. It allows us to spend more on our needs, like new schools, recreation centers, libraries, improved transit projects, while spending less on interest. Obviously, the less of our spend goes into the interest pile, the more of that same amount of money can go into actually building things. The longevity of our excellent fiscal record is a testament to the leaders who came before us and to the work of our current county government. On the health report, free COVID tests will be available from the federal government through the mail again by the end of the month. It's in anticipation of the start of the season when COVID-19 cases and other respiratory illnesses are expected to make their yearly surges. I will point out that COVID has multiple surges during the year. It peaks and wanes more so than flu does, for example, or RSV for that matter. The tests will detect current virus strains and will be available through the end of the year at covidtest.gov. As we mentioned last week, COVID's distribution of free COVID tests have come to an end. So it's more important this year that our residents request these free tests to be sent out to them through the mail. And before I open up the questions, I want to give my health team a moment to talk about what they're saying. I do want to add one thing. Novavax's vaccine has been approved and it's available now. And a bunch of us are actually going to go get the Nova vaccine. I want to make the point, though, that there were some people who did not like the methodology or science, another way to say it, that was used in creating the previous vaccines. And so there are people who didn't take it because they didn't want to take something that was produced as it was. Novavax represents traditional vaccine production techniques. So if you were okay with the other vaccines and comfortable with the way they were produced, Novavax is the one vaccine out of this group of vaccines that's out there now that follows the more traditional route. So if those of you who've been holding back, waiting to get something that was more like what you're comfortable with, the moment has arrived, the vaccines will be available and you can get them. And that's the unique thing about Novavax. All the vaccines are safe. I wouldn't discourage anybody from taking any of them, but if you had a concern, the Novavax vaccine will address some of those concerns. So I'll turn this over to my health team for any other updates they have, and then we're going to take media questions.
Thank you, Mr. County Executive. Just to update that we are finally seeing the latest COVID wave start to recede. Our surveillance samples for wastewater, for emergency department visits, and for patients in our hospitals, those are all starting to come down now. A word of caution, we are seeing some of our first indications that influenza season is now starting. We're seeing some increased activities, even though it's very low, of people going to outpatient centers with concerns about influenza. So even though things are getting better for COVID, just to remind people, we are moving into the respiratory season. It's a good time to get those annual flu shots and annual updated COVID boosters. And if you're older and you have not gotten your RSV shot, that's also recommended this year. And that's all the updates that we have.
Thank you, Mr. O'Donnell. Dr. Stoddard, do you have any updates today?
No additional updates.
Thank you. Then we open it up for questions. Members of the media, please raise your hand so we can call on you, and you can pose your question to the county executive and other officials. Elliot Griffin, Local 360, good afternoon.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey,
This question is going to be for the county executive. It does not have to do with COVID or any of the health issues that we were just listening to. But last week I saw several reports about immigrant families who are living at the Enclave apartments in White Oak. And I've heard that the majority of them are from Afghanistan, and they're facing eviction after resettling in the area. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about how it came to be that these families are facing evictions and what the county is doing in response.
It came to be because the refugee resettlement program landed a lot of people in the DMV and put a lot of people into Montgomery County. I'd say that was an odd choice of places to bring people because the cost of housing in Montgomery County is one of the highest anywhere. So we weren't exactly the low price point in terms of being able to find Afghan refugees or any refugees affordable housing. That said, these are people who the United States brought over here after the end of the war in Afghanistan. They most likely would have been killed had they stayed behind, or faced all kinds of other discriminatory practices, as you can see from the record that the Taliban is racking up in terms of just general intolerance. But they had been people who helped the U.S. military during the war, and they certainly were not safe to be left behind. So they were brought here. Resettlement people brought a large number of them into the DMV area. Montgomery County is one of the largest recipients. And when the support services ran out, rent supports or job training, and which is a big issue in this community, they've not been able to pay rent. And some of them are paying extraordinarily high rents. We have at least one case of somebody paying a $3,000 a month rent for the same unit that's being rented in the building for $1,900. The Enclave is a very challenging property. It's one of the most challenging properties in the county because the owners refuse to fix their building. And because of the length of time it takes to get to court and the difficulty in pursuing requirements to fix buildings, this building has been an extraordinary problem for the county. We're looking at new state legislation we hope we can use to deal with it. But all that said, we've got refugees who now are behind on their rent, $20,000 more and some less. The county does not have the resources, in this case would be millions and millions of dollars, to take care of everybody's back rent. Also, since a lot of these people remain unemployed, this problem will just repeat itself. If we paid all the back rents today, we would in many cases start accruing more back rents tomorrow. So we are asking the state and federal government for some more assistance on this. We think it's important that they're able to play a role. And this is certainly beyond the ability of counties. And I'm not saying Montgomery, probably most counties in the country could not simply absorb these many people in a population who don't have jobs, don't have language skills, and are this far behind on rent. So we're doing what we can. We'll put whatever money we can out there. We want to help these people. There's a number of community-based refugee assistance committees out there. I had a conversation with a couple of them last week. We're going to try to put together a meeting of these private initiatives as well as what the government's doing to see if there any way we can coordinate. Is there any way we can help find housing for people? There, in many cases, they've been able to find housing in existing homes, but the assumption is it's temporary, and in order for it to be temporary, people have to get job training, be able to get work. So we got a big challenge here, and we're going to do our best to address it, but we are going to be facing real limits what we can do in the budget.
Elliot, I also wanted to add that actually, while we've been on this media briefing, I've been having a little bit of back and forth in email with the sheriff's office, and actually Sheriff he and I are going to connect actually right after this call. They've been very, they've been collaborative around helping us to identify persons, who prioritize those individuals who are more imminent risk of eviction. And I also see that Christine Hong, our Division Chief for Service and Prevent Homelessness, who's been very actively engaged on this issue, is on the call now, and I think it would be good to give her an opportunity to talk about the most recent stuff that she's been doing this week.
Christine, you want to say a few words?
Yes, thank you, Mr. County Executive and Dr. Stoddard. I appreciate the question. Services to End and Prevent Homelessness has been working intensively with numerous partners, including all of the resettlement agencies, to try to prevent every eviction of the refugees there who are based at the Enclave. As the county executive said, the rents there are quite high, and so it's been challenging for them to keep up with their rent. We are partnering very closely also with the state, the Maryland Office of Refugees and Asylees, and their partnership with the 3 resettlement agencies who are working with the families. We are also partnering with the Muslim Community Center because there are numerous cultural barriers that we're encountering in trying to get the families to self-sufficiency. So many entities are involved, working very intensively to prevent all of the evictions if we can. There are some cases where there is not a sustainable plan for the families because the rent is simply too high and their income is not able to keep up with the rent, where relocation may be needed. And that's a very difficult conversation to have with the families, but sometimes needed to get them to a sustainable plan. So these are all things that we've been working on, and we are hoping to be able to work with the Enclave as well, the management, to perhaps seek lower rents and seek more reasonable arrangements for these families. But we appreciate all of the community support of these families and the outpouring of concern, and we continue to work intensively until we can prevent these evictions.
Thank you, Christine. Any follow-up questions? Okay, thank you, Elia. Members of the media, any other questions this afternoon? No more questions for the county executive and the team today? Well, thank you everybody for joining us. Have a wonderful afternoon. Stay safe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Mhm.